What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD Mobile video. So today we are going to be discussing one of the buffs that came out for Season 11, and in my opinion, probably the most interesting buff, which was the Vargo S. The Vargo S has been in the game for a few months at this point, and it kind of has been regarded as one of the worst assault rifles to be released, at least in recent history. And coming from the BP-50, where that assault rifle was superb, yeah, this one was quite the opposite. There were just like a lot of downsides that kind of held back the weapon, and if they released it in the way that it is right now currently, it probably would have been a much more, I guess, better regarded weapon. In fact, the way that the weapon is right now is probably how it should have been in the first place. So what are some of the downsides of this weapon that make it just weak, or at least made it weak? Obviously, one of the issues, at least the core issues that a lot of people do discuss, it's usually the vertical recoil. The vertical recoil has been one of the main issues that have been plaguing the Vargo S for a very long time, because the only viable way to run this is arguably with that rapid fire barrel, but that increases all the recoil. And if you want to have some more damage with 30 rounds, it's going to increase it even further. There are ways to make the weapon, stable with all those attachments in mind, but you're going to have to slow down your mobility significantly. And another problem that plagues this weapon is, well, I guess was the lack of bullet speed. On average, the bullet speed with this weapon before this update was maybe around 600 and maybe 780, I believe, if you had the 30 round mag. That was really the only way to boost up the bullet speed, and even with that long range barrel that this weapon does have, at least before this update, it did not have any attributes to increase the bullet speed, but now it does. But that's kind of like gunsmithing 101 if you think about it, because usually if you have a long range barrel, whether it be a Black Ops Cold War weapon or even just a regular Modern Warfare weapon, that barrel is also going to increase bullet speed. It's very likely that will happen, but for some reason, the Vanguard weapons are notorious for not allowing that. Weapons such as the BP-50, Vargo at some point, and as well as like the Sten. The Sten is really bad because of the lack of bullet speed. They did make some updates to the Vargo over these past few seasons, but nothing major. If anything, they're just more of mobility changes. But it was never towards anything that actually mattered, like bullet speed or recoil control. And even now, after this update, they still haven't done anything with the recoil control as well. So just in case you guys are curious on what changed with the Vargo S, is that the weapon's bullet speed, just the weapon itself, no attachments, increased from 650 meters per second to 780 meters per second. That was the max bullet speed that you were able to have if you equipped the 30 round Mauser mags before this update. So the boosted bullet speed that you get from the previous update is now basically the standard for the Vargo S now. But they also increased the lower arm multipliers from 1 times to 1.1 times for the Mauser mags, and for the 414mm custom, I can't really pronounce the first part, they added a 20% bullet speed buff. This is basically the marksman barrel of this gun. What's also cool about this is that if you do want to run the 60 round mags that also kind of like decrease your bullet speed, I don't think it's going to take it down to 650, or at least to how it was before, but it is a little bit higher now and it's a little more bearable to use. However, if you do use the 30 round Mauser mags, and it already had like some bullet speed attributes anyways, I think it's like 30%, so it goes up to like around 900 something. So that's a massive jump, especially for the Vargo S. And if you decide to mix it with the long range barrel that it has with the extra 20% bullet speed buff, you're actually able to go over 1,000 meters per second of bullet speed. I would say the performance of the weapon, once you mix that 30 round mag and the long range barrel together, I would say it's a slightly, maybe like around the same as the Krig 6 lethality. But I think the maximum potential of this weapon is obviously using the rapid fire barrel with the 30 round mags, because you do have an expanded 3-shot potential. It's not always going to happen, but it's a lot more possible now. And mind you, the fire rate is pretty fast when you put this together. And if you want to use recoil booster as well, I mean, you could further increase the fire rate. When you do mix the rapid fire barrel with the 30 round Mauser mags, I think that's when it's at its best. Obviously, you can't reach the maximum amount of bullet speed, because obviously one of the other bullet speed attachments is that long range barrel, and it's already taken up by that rapid fire barrel. But at least 900 meters per second of bullet speed is, I think, way more than enough. Usually I would think that the rival weapon of the Vargo S would be the AS Val. And in some ways, I mean, you can be right, but I think this weapon might be a tiny bit better than the AS Val, only because you could actually have 3-tap potential to the chest, without having any sort of attachment. But that 3-tap potential is basically built into the weapon. Plus, you already have more bullet speed than what the AS Val can handle. Keep in mind, to get that 3-tap potential to the chest with the AS Val, you would need to use that melee barrel, or the one that basically increases your overall speed, but has also that multiplier thing. But mind you, you're going to be at maybe 600 or 500 bullet speed. However, chances are with this weapon, you're probably going to have it unsuppressed if you want to use recoil booster, or if you want to use some sort of compensator that helps with the vertical recoil, which I think the best one is definitely the scythe compensator. Yeah, that's the only thing. You're not going to be able to be suppressed unless you could really control recoil. So besides that, I know a lot of you guys would still consider the Vargo to not be good at all. And honestly, we can't expect every weapon to be meta, but we can't deny that this weapon is far better than what it was before this update. Outside of vertical recoil, I would say that this weapon all around is kind of good where it is. They just need to work on that vertical recoil, and that's basically it. Once they could get the recoil under control, I think at that point, the Vargo could actually be considered a good weapon. But I've always used it throughout these past seasons because, I kind of see the potential of the weapon in the right hands. It can be very good. And it's also like the fact that it does require a bit of effort to actually use. Winning the match feels a lot more rewarding knowing that you did it with a far less superior weapon. But hey, that's my opinion. That's what I think of the Vargo. I think it's a pretty solid weapon for what it is right now, but it can be a little bit more better if they just push a little harder. But other than that, yeah, that's basically the entire Vargo video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like. Make sure to subscribe for some more COD Mobile content. I'll see you guys next time.